What is a 6-step work process that produces great deliverables and makes your client and your teammates happy? Hi everyone, my name is Johannes Niari and welcome to my channel where I share my learnings and experiences from my own journey as a strategy consultant. And here on this channel we talk about consulting, business and mindset. If you're new to this channel, then please subscribe to it and leave a thumb up. This will help to grow the channel, but it will also help you that you don't miss any new video. And today we talk about a 6-step work process that helps you to produce great deliverables in consulting or in management. And recently I had a new intern on my project and I had an expectation management talk with this person, and the person asked me, okay Johannes, what is the most common mistake that juniors make if they come to new consulting projects? And I thought for a while, and then I said, okay, the most common issue that most people make if they are new in consulting is that they don't have an iterative work process. And what do I mean by that? Well, typically the thing is, if people come to consulting and if they have no experience, and even worse, if they come maybe from a background from investment banking, then they are used to, only talk to their supervisor, to talk to their team if they have the perfect result. And this means that they work for hours, for days, sometimes even for weeks in their room without getting any or collecting any feedback. They work, maybe let's say they work on a presentation, they do the research, they put it on a slide, then they make the slide very, very fancy, very beautiful, and no spelling mistakes, everything is great. And then, 2 days before the deadline, they send it to their supervisor. Well, the issue here is that in consulting, it's very common to work on in a very iterative way, and that means that you do plenty of iterations, because in consulting this is a way to work on content. And very often you have the situation where maybe the project manager says to the consultant, okay, I need this presentation about this topic, and he gives an instruction. Then a consultant works for let's say 1 or 2 weeks on his own on a presentation. Then there is the day of the deadline. The project manager asks for the presentation, he receives the presentation, and then realizes that the work is not at all what he expected, because maybe he had a different storyline in his mind, maybe he was actually looking for different numbers or whatsoever. And this happens all the time. And this is the number one reason why in consulting people sometimes have to work the entire night, because they have to do this last minute adjustments, because there was no iterative work approach that allowed to give feedback at a very, very early stage. So what I want to introduce to you today is a 6-step work process that I use on a daily basis and that I teach everyone who works in my team, because I think it's so important to understand that and to really, really learn that in consulting you need as much iterations as possible. You need them as early as possible in order to produce great results. So with that being said, let's start. What is the first step of the work process? Well, obviously the first step is that you receive a request, and very often it's that your project manager approaches maybe the consultant, the junior consultant, and has a request like doing research and putting it on a slide. If you receive a request, and this can also be from a client, if the client asks you maybe to do an analysis, it's pretty much the same work process. It's very important to be open and interested, that you ask questions actively and take notes, and that you also check for time constraints, so that you ask from the beginning, okay, what is the deadline, when do you have time for feedback loops, and that you make pretty sure that you know exactly what the task is. Then the second step is that you confirm your understanding, and this means that you just quickly summarize your understanding of the expected result, that you quickly summarize the desired format. So is it PowerPoint, is it Excel, does it have to be really beautified because it has to be sent out to the client, or is it more like an internal document and it doesn't have to look that beautiful? And that you also obviously confirm the deadline. Those are very important things, and don't forget that, because this is the first checkpoint immediately after you receive the task that makes sure that you have a clear understanding of what your actual task is and this really will help you to run into the right direction. Then step number 3 is that you prepare an outline. And this is where I see, most people not doing this step, and it's so important. What I usually like to do, and I talk to the people in my team all the time, that I really like to have an outline drafted in bullets, in an email or in Teams, or just verbally, that I want to see that draft first. Because typically what this helps you to do is that if you sit down and before you even open PowerPoint or Excel or whatsoever, just write down, okay, what your approach is, what the outline maybe in a presentation of the storyline is, or maybe the components of an analysis in Excel. And if you do that, if you sit down and just try to summarize your approach in bullet points and send it to me, this usually only takes like a couple of minutes, maybe a couple of hours, but not more. This is very quickly done, and this gives your supervisor or your teammates or the client a very good opportunity to confirm the approach, to maybe add some more thoughts on a very early stage of the process. Because most work is not if you do the outline and stuff, most work is if you have to adjust PowerPoint slides at the end. So make sure that you draft the outline, that you get an confirmation of your understanding as early as possible, and this is step number 3. Then step number 4 is that you confirm the approach, so that you get the feedback from your stakeholder, that they say, okay, this is exactly what we want to have, this is the right outline, this works for us. Also try to incorporate some feedback. Usually people have some small adjustments or some additions to your outline, and then adjust your procedure. So think about, okay, what do I have to change now? And then you're usually ready to go. And this is step number 4, where you really confirm the approach. And only then, after those 4 steps, comes the 5th and the actual step of the process. And this is that you really work on the deliverable itself. But be aware again that also here you have to be iterative. So this means that you work on the deliverable, that you do the analysis in Excel, that you do the research on the web, that you do the outline, or that you do the presentation in PowerPoint. This is where you actually work on the deliverable, and this should also take the most of your time. Okay, it's very important that you provide regular updates. So maybe you try to have 1 or 2 touch points with your teammates or supervisors or the client. And this typically is also enough, if you just send it maybe via email and ask for feedback. Maybe you set up a quick touch point where you can discuss the document, and this really helps, that you get feedback, and it helps you to incorporate the feedback. And again, I cannot emphasize enough, make sure that also in this step number 5, you still have an iterative approach. So plan for several feedback loops, especially, if there is a long time or if it's a larger deliverable. And then last but not least, we come to step number 6. And this is where you do finalize the task and do the actual review. So this means that you really take a step back, check the document, check for quality, check for design, and that you really make sure that it is client ready, that it is exactly what you discussed at the beginning of the process, so that you are really sure that you meet the expectations of your teammates or the client, and then at the end you deliver your results. So keep in mind that those 6 steps are really important. Again, you receive the task, confirm the understanding, prepare the outline. It's really important. Do that in bullets, because it's done very quickly. It doesn't cost much time, but it will save you so much time if you do it right. Get the confirmation of the approach. Only then you work on the final deliverable, and then plan also enough time for the quality checks. And this really will help you to provide great deliverables in consulting and keep your client and your teammates very happy. Of course, I am interested what your tips are. Do you have any efficiency hacks that make the process even better? Then please write it down in the chat. And if this brought value to you, then please subscribe to this channel. Also leave a thumb up. And with that being said, I wish you a very successful day. Hope to talk to you soon. Goodbye, Johannes.